Hello everyone, this is Lying Figure, and we're back again playing Silent Hill 2. Now I know what you're thinking. LF, we already played Silent Hill 2. Why are you trying to make us play Silent Hill 2 again? Well, it's because I really love Silent Hill 2 and we're just going to play it again. No, not really. If you can read, which I expect about half of you are able to, you'll see that it says Silent Hill 2 Trial Version. And you'll notice that it's a different title screen than the average Silent Hill title screen. Anyways, if you were at E3 2001, which I doubt you were, most people weren't, you were able to play this trial demo of Silent Hill 2. Now, since this was in June 2001, the game came out in September, I'm sure most of the little differences between this version and the final release version were actually hammered out by the time people were playing this demo, but, you know, they probably made it early 2001 or something and then just kept it on the back burner, which is why there are a lot of tiny differences, which is actually why this demo I'm giving it a playthrough for you guys, because it just fascinates me, because you can really look in between the cracks in the folds of the game and see, you know what they were doing along development and everything. You can kind of see what they had in their original vision and how they had it planned out exactly, as opposed to, you can see what details they knew were going to be straight, they obviously had the whole plot, they had the whole game design, they had the whole areas, levels, everything, puzzles, all mapped out. The only differences are, fairly minor. But yeah, it's a good peek into that little development window. Now I will post a download link to this in one of my upcoming videos, probably the first episode of my Silent Hill 3 lore play, but I'm going to upload it myself instead of linking to where I got it, because it's just one guy that I know, and I don't want to blow up his account with people trying to get this. So this is a PS2 ISO, if I didn't say I'm emulating on my PC. Strangely enough though, if there is slowdown, it's not even my PC, because I actually, my brother has a much stronger PC, and I tested it on that just to make sure it's not my PC, because in the interior of the game, you shouldn't it shouldn't be slowing down that much. And sure enough, the slowdown is just due to the fact that it's, an early beta demo version, and you'll notice that a lot of the audio sounds a little bit glitched out, but it's more the game itself. It's just some glitches in this early version. But without further ado, let's give it a whirl, and let's play. Now I'm keeping the audio down a bit, because you start off with the music very loud. That's obviously from the main game. We're in the Brookhaven Hospital, as you can see, and I'm going to clear out this area. Now, you notice that the handgun we start with, it makes a different noise from the final release handgun. And also worth noting, we're in the hospital lobby, and the monsters are lying figures and mannequins, which in the main game you'll know that this lobby actually has no enemies, and you actually start off, in the main game you start off no enemies in this lobby, and the only enemies you find here are actually just nurses. Now I think I killed all the enemies, but this track in this area seems to never stop playing. So I'm going to try and get to an area where it will shut up a bit so I can talk. You'll notice that the text, when I interact with that, looks like the lock is broken. It's a different font from the final game's text. And all these doors are locked except for one. So I'm just going to go to that, which is this one. Unfortunately, I can't get the sound to shut up just yet. So I'll just turn it down on my headset. I do my best. And right here we can find a health drink and handgun bullets. Of course, there's no sound when you pick it up, unlike the final game, and the item is not highlighted in the text like it is in the final game. You'll also notice that there's no no like delay. As soon as you hit it and then hit the button again, it goes away, as opposed to it usually takes a second to fade in the text, which you can skip by tapping the button, and then you tap it again to make the text go away. But we are in, and we do start off with the map. You notice that the map here is a lot more kind of, now as I talked about before, I've got some color blindness, so I'm not sure exactly what you called this color, but it's kind of yellowish greenish, as opposed to the final map, which is mostly just white. This looks a lot older and more aged, and the actual map controls are different. All the different buttons. I'm using a DualShock controller to play this, and all the buttons are mapped out differently, and you'll see we're in the document room, and you'll see that when you go into these things, there's no slow fade like in the final release version. It just kind of abruptly changes, as you can see there, and it does take a second. So here in the main game, there's a typewriter, something is written on it. And in the main game, the desk background on this isn't like hard ivory wood like this is, and the typewriter is different, but they did change it, and even the color of the notes and the key that you see right there are different as well. And this note is a whole thing about reality and psychology in the final game. Here it just says one thing, which is, I got the key from Joseph. It's probably the key to that box. And that's all it says. And you get the key, it'll fade away. I got the purple bull key. Here it does highlight the item, but it seems to only highlight for quest items, important items, as opposed to just handgun bullets or health drinks, which is very different from the final version. And you'll see when I leave this, instead of fading away to James like it normally would in the final version, it actually just abruptly changes. You see like that? So you can kind of tell the game is not finished yet. But yeah, the sound is still going nuts. Can't investigate anything here. And before I leave here and clear up the sound, you'll see that this door is the front door of the hospital. It's just I can't get the door open. And you'll see here, this is actually the map of the hospital you pick up in the main game. And once you pick it up, it disappears. Here we start out with the map, which means that this map here, we can't pick it up, and we can't make it disappear. Pretty odd. Now the controls are the same for the most part, except for when you hit back, you actually have to use square instead of circle or whatever other button. And I'm going to go into the options menu. This is perhaps the biggest change from the final game, is the inventory, because look at this. You can see that, just like in Silent Hill 1, instead of just a picture of the screen that changes color based on your health, you actually do get the exact same green effect as in Silent Hill 1, and a picture of James, just like you get a picture of Harry in Silent Hill 1, which I think is intriguing. Now, this is the handgun, and let me turn up the sound a bit so you can hear this. The scrolling sound is very different. It's a heavy clanking metal noise, which is very different from the main game. And here the flashlight, I don't believe in the main game that it says currently in breast pocket like it does in this one, which is pretty cool. And now here's the purple bull key. And you'll see those 3 green squares at the bottom, which you can actually use for combining. As you can see, it shows up in the square in the bottom there. But we won't actually be using that until a little bit from now. And this is a very small difference that not many people notice, but of course, since this is the trial version, you can enter the options because they didn't want you to see, every single option that they had. But you can enter options. But in the main game, memo is actually in the middle here, and map is on the right. Here, it's switched around in this version, which is pretty interesting. And so yeah, the sound effects when you scroll through this are completely different. And when I leave the menu, it's very abrupt, there's no fade. But let's head upstairs, because all these doors are still locked. And this is one other big difference, which is that this is the staircase of the hospital, Usually what it is when you walk in, the up staircase is directly to James's left and you run up, but in this version, it's actually down when you turn left. And you actually have to run forward to head upstairs, which is pretty strange, because now we're in the landing between the first and second floor, and it looks like this. And that's another, because of that change, you'll actually notice the camera angles are different. Now let's go on the second floor here. And one of the biggest differences I've noticed is all the door opening noises, all the turning around noises, all the shooting, everything has a much stronger echo than in the main game, and I kind of like it actually. But same with the footsteps, they're a little bit louder. You'll notice that the door shake kind of reverberates a bit more, and it echoes a bit longer when you open a door. Now here, this is actually a completely different camera angle than in the original game, or in the final game. In the final game, it would be coming in from James's left, pointing at him, so that you could see this jacket here, because it would have the examination room key, which gives you a key to go down to the first floor in the lobby, and then look at a whiteboard and get a code. That code is, the keypad is not actually present in this version, which is pretty cool. So the camera angle is completely different. Instead we get a camera angle focusing on this desk, where we can get a health drink. Again, no noise for picking it up. And he's looking at something else here, which we can't really see, but it's actually the bent needle. And in the final version of the game, you actually get the bent needle from the other room, where you'll find a teddy bear with it in it. And that reminds me, I should point out, there's no Maria with us in this version, like there is in the final one. So let's head to the other room here, on the second floor. And right here on this desk you usually find a teddy bear, and on this desk with the there's some handgun bullets that aren't in the final version. There's usually a teddy bear, and you get a little cutscene where James picks it up and looks at it and pricks himself on a bent needle, and that's where you get the bent needle. Not present in this version. And then also you find a shotgun in this locker, not present in this version. And you can't interact with the poster like you can in the final version. And you can't interact with the window either. So we got that stuff. There is nothing over here except for some more mannequins, which again, not present in the final game. Now let me just show you this, which let me back away so I can explain it quickly. Which is that these enemies in this version, as you just heard, they have a unique, weird little noise that they do, which is in the final version. And also, they have a really hard time hitting you. You'll see the hitboxes for this version are really broken for the mannequins. And even when they do hit you, James doesn't moan or anything. He just kind of goes bump, and that's it. And the reload is, he drops the gun down near his waist, as opposed to in the final version where he'll lift up the magazine into higher up in the gun where he's standing like this. But it doesn't happen in this version. And you'll notice, let me tire myself out a little bit. And that's actually a unique sound effect of this version as well, which is that when you bump into walls, instead of James kind of grunting, you get a loud bump when he hits the wall, as you can see there. And I'm just tiring myself out so I can show you this, which is not in the final game, which is there's a slight vibration on the controller of James's heartbeat, which I'm sure you can't feel or hear, but it's very subtle, but you can hear it or feel it if you're holding the controller. When you tire James out enough, he'll bend over and hold both his hands at his waist like that, and breathe really hard. Now the stamina is in the final game, but in the final game he does not bend over like that. He just kind of hunches over. He doesn't do this. He just does this. which is very, very interesting. Very cool. It does look kind of janky with him bending over completely, so I'm sure that's why they changed it. They just full on removed that animation. And one thing they did change is that James just kind of gets exhausted very easily in this version, or if you run for just a little bit, he'll have to do that. But and there's a little crying sound effect there, which although you don't hear at this point in the hospital, you actually do hear that in the final game in the second floor hallway in the Lakeview Hotel, which is pretty cool. And I think no, never mind. There's all these doors are broken. Can't go in here. But there's a lock on this elevator's call button, so we do need a key for that. And I don't know if I said it before, but this is going to be a short video just because this demo is actually pretty short. But now, again, there aren't nurses in this hotel, or excuse me, in this hospital like there are in the final version. It's kind of peculiar. You end up fighting lying figures and mannequins. So watch this. We end up in this room with two lying figures. And you can see they still have the skittering, scattering sound and animation. But that track is actually not in the game, that combat track we just heard. Or not in the final game, at least. You can get it in a cut soundtrack CD that was released a few years ago. But you can also hear flies. And what that is exactly, I'm unsure. If it's meant to be like, you know, flies around the dead bodies of the lying figures, I'm really not sure, because it sounds like it comes from over here, and you don't hear it on anything else in this trial demo, so it might just be a peculiarity of this room. But there's nothing else in here. So we're going to head up to the third floor, and I can feel James's heartbeat going pretty nuts here. I think I did get hit a few times by a mannequin. And you can hear even this noise is different from in the final version. And you can see the texture of this medkit is not the same as in the final version. It's a little bit less refined. So let's head upstairs to the third floor. And I do want to show you just really quickly. This is the wooden plank. In the normal game, you'd usually have a steel pipe by this point, but we do not. Now, James does have his prepare for attack from both the side and from both sides, but in the final version, he can either swing from the side if you hold the button, or he'll swing over the top if you tap it. In this version, he only has one attack, which is to swing over the top. And that's a sound you don't hear in the final version, which is that clink against the wall. And that metallic sound is kind of implied to be because there are nails in the end of this wooden board. And in the final version, I think it's just more of a dull wooden clank, or it's just no sound at all. But it's pretty neat. They do have collision in this version, which I think they have collision in the final, but no sound. So up the modified staircase, again the loud sound, which is nuts. Now let's check the third floor really quickly, just so I can show you that it is in fact locked. So I'll head down to the third floor. And just craziness. 1 second here. Now one difference is that you don't actually pause the game. Whether you hit select or start, you will be taken to the inventory. And in the main game, you hit select to bring up the inventory and start just to pause. So I'm going to show you the wooden plank in action here. Let me turn down the sound a bit because it's really loud. But let me see if I can beat this thing. Now the wooden plank swing is a lot slower in this version, which is probably why they choose to start you off with a handgun. So let's break out the handgun. We did get hit once, so let's use some of this. Now you can hear that very constant rattling sound in the background. You can hear that little creaky noise. What that is, I'm really not sure. You can't find the source of it, and it seems to be coming from in this room. But I have no clue really what it is. And there's nothing we can do about it. Now, the storeroom is locked. But, one interesting note, this hallway right here, this is kind of all concrete and everything. This texture is actually different in the final version. And there's a keypad on this door, which has the code 7335. But since we didn't enter the examination room, we're not going to get that. It's just, you can just walk right through. But we did miss a room, which we can go in here. And in the final game, this is the little asylum part of the hospital. And let me see if I can zoom in. Yep, special treatment rooms. Now, in the final version of the game, you can only enter here when you get knocked through the roof by Pyramid Head. And in this version, you can just enter right away. That's, of course, because the roof is locked off and everything. And all the doors are broken or locked. Normally in the game, there's a note here about the nurses or something, people getting hurt, but it's not present in this version. But you can enter this room, and you end up in this padded cell. And just like in the final version, there is a code here written in blood. But the difference is that in this version it's not randomized, it's actually always the same, and it's always 6565, which is pretty interesting. In the main game it's randomized. And it says, turn the numbers, better not forget them, so I'll write them down here, the other one my secret name. Now it does say the same thing in the main game. So, we got the 655, or 6565 code, which will be helpful, because we need to... Now that creaking sound is still playing, and it's very strange. Not sure what it's from. And there's a little lighting bug there that only happens in this version. And normally in this room, excuse me, S3, you would drop off Maria, who's sick, but you can't in this version since you don't have her with, so it's just, you know, broken. Can't enter this door. Can't enter, sorry. Sound like I said can. And all these doors are actually broken except for two. And before I go over there any further, let me show you the shower room. Now this is unchanged in the final game. Just some slime, some green slime, and the drain. And you can see there's something stuck in the drainage pipe. The hole's too small, I can't get my hand inside to reach it. Maybe if I had a long, narrow tool of some kind. So, we do have the bent needle, but we need something else to get in there. And, keeps lagging out a bit. Huh. I'm really not sure why that is. Let's just get rid of this enemy. That might help. Huh. My last playthrough didn't speed down here at all. So, I'm not sure what's going on, but... Anyways, this room you can enter in the final version. The camera angle is different though. And there's a save icon here. And it's very well lit. And there's no handgun ammo here. Or maybe there is, sorry. But also you can hear that loud... excuse me. A loud banging from the window. Which is not present in the final version. Now let's keep heading down this hallway. Huh, this hallway for some reason is just slowing me down. Now, we can enter in here. And this is the room where, if you look at the wall, it says, Luis, I'll take care of you forever. It's my destiny. Now we look at the box. And of course, instead of the final version box, which we get, which has 4 locks, there are only 2, which are the code, which is 655 or 6565, just like in that we got from the little special treatment padded room. And now it doesn't seem to be locked by anything except for this purple bowl key, which we can use to open it up. And no creaking, no fade, we just get this immediately. And there's nothing inside the box. No, I'm wrong, there are a few hairs inside. So we got a piece of hair. Cool. So I do want to show you this, which is, if you look very closely, there's a med kit here. And when you hit X to grab it, watch James's left hand. It appears that they kind of planned for him to grab items physically if they were near enough, because watch how his hand moves for it. Oh. Never mind, I guess. Oh, wait. Yeah. That's my bad. I meant to show it with this, because he seems to grab it and open his hand with it. Or open his hand and grab it, but I'll show that right here. Okay, so here's me attempting to recreate what I thought I saw when I first played the trial. I thought I saw a hand kind of bend down to grab. Let's see. Yeah, you can see James kind of opens his left hand there when I hit X to grab the kit, which I never noticed before, and I don't think it's in the main game. So it's pretty interesting that it's a detail a lot of people miss. But yeah, so yeah, it's very peculiar. It's kind of, maybe they were trying to show or hint at him grabbing items, and they just kind of cut it out. Who knows? It's very strange though. So we did get what we need for the drain. Sorry for the slowdown here. What we can use right here. Combine the bent needle with the piece of hair. Oops. Oops. The controls are driving me nuts. It takes so long to go back. There we go. So let's go ahead and combine once again. We'll reach down the drain. You can see that whole section of the shower right there is cut off. That's just a trial demo bug. And James managed to get, you can see the wooden plank there just floating. Again, another trial demo bug. We got the elevator key. Very cool. Which means we can head in here to the locked elevator, use the elevator key, and you can see the colors and the texture is a little bit different than the final version, but not too much. I think the walls are bluer in the final version, but otherwise, let's use the keypad. No real difference. I think maybe a slight coloring difference, but otherwise, let's head down to the first floor, and we'll see that it says coming soon. So that is the end of the demo. Very interesting. Very interesting stuff, huh? There's so many little differences there that are cool to note. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting. Now that is not the only beta demo version of Silent Hill 2 that exists. There was a sort of test 0.10 version that did come out, and I do have that as well, but it's quite a bit longer, and it actually lets you play from the beginning all the way up to the first Pyramid Head boss fight. So I'm going to give that a play another day, probably when I'm on an off day from Silent Hill 3, or maybe when we finish that. But that's going to take a lot longer to play and point out every difference. So I just wanted to do this quick little video, I can't speak, to tide you over for a day or two. Well, I make sure everything for Silent Hill 3 is in order, so I can record that and play it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day.